Hi, in today's video, I'm going to show you how you can make your very own gorgeous bow that can be used either on gift packaging or on your Christmas tree or as a tree topper. It's really not as hard as you might think to make a beautiful bow like this. Really, it just takes a little bit of know-how, a little bit of finger dexterity, and the right materials. So first, let's talk about what the right materials are. So obviously the first thing that you need is your ribbon. And I always recommend using ribbon that has wired edge. And that's really important because that will allow you to get better shape, to pinch it in the middle like you need to, and be able to work with it like you need to. Now, in terms of the amount of ribbon, this does take quite a bit of ribbon. And so it obviously depends on the size of your bow, how many loops, the size of the loops, etc. But just to give you an idea, a bow of about this size with 8 different loops takes about 12 feet of ribbon to use. So you might start thinking, oh wow, that's going to be really expensive. So that's why I always recommend finding ribbon at places like At Home or Hobby Lobby, where you can get wired ribbon for a pretty good price. And so the 2 ribbons that I'm going to be showing you how to work with today, one's from At Home and one is from Hobby Lobby. So the second supply that you need is a good pair of scissors. And you're obviously going to be using this to cut the ribbon where you need to cut it and then to create the fishtails. And because it has to cut through the wire edge of the ribbon, you do need a pretty good sharp pair of scissors. And also you don't want to have ragged edges on your tails because it just makes them look a little less polished. So make sure you've got a good pair of scissors. I always keep a pair of scissors with my ribbon supply, and this is all that they're used for, so I know that they're not being used in the kitchen or for something sticky or something like that. The last thing you need is some way to fasten the bow, and there's a couple of different ways that you can go. If you're creating a bow that's going to go on a package, then I actually recommend fastening the bow with more of the ribbon itself. And so this is just going to give it the nicest look, and it's just going to make it the most presentable. However, if you're creating a bow to go on the Christmas tree, especially as a tree topper, then you don't necessarily see how it's tied off in the middle all that closely, and therefore you don't have to use up more ribbon. So what I like to use are something like pipe cleaners. You can also use florist wire as well, but I find that pipe cleaners work well because they're inexpensive, they're a little bit easier to work with because they're easy to grip because of the fuzziness, and they come in a variety of colors, and so I just chose this green color because it matches my 2 ribbons pretty well, and therefore it just kind of disappears and you don't even notice that it's on there. So I'll go ahead and zoom the camera down and show you how you can make a beautiful bow of your own. So the first step is to make sure that you have whatever you're going to finish the bow and tie it off with handy and ready. So for this bow, since it's going to be something that would go on a Christmas tree topper, I'm going to use my green pipe cleaner. But if you were putting this on a gift package, you'd want to go ahead and have the ribbon tied around the package with long enough tails that you could use those tails to then be what actually secures the bow that we're about to make. So I've got my ribbon here. My first step is to determine how much I want to leave for the tail. And so for this, I will probably leave about that amount because I am going to fishtail the ends and leave this dangling from the tree topper. Then I'm going to create my first loop. And it's really important to be thoughtful about how big I want the loops of the bows to be because I'm going to want to keep each of the loops about the same size. And so I think for the tree that I'm making this for, that's probably a pretty good size right there. And then from there, I've got it pinched between my fingers. From there, I'm going to twist it one time so what was on the bottom is now on the top. So that's my first loop. Now I come over and I'm going to just kind of flip this so it's upside down because the next loop I'm going to make, I'm going to bring over the top. And now I've got my second loop on the other side. And I can just kind of pull them up to make sure they're about the same length, which they are. I mean, not exactly, but it doesn't have to be that precise. And now I'm just going to pinch that second loop in between my fingers. So this is where it's really important that you've got good finger dexterity. From there, I'm just going to once again twist, and what was on the ribbon that was on the bottom is now on the top. So now I've got the ribbon back on the other side to create the next loop, and I'm just going to keep doing this until I have the number of loops that I want. And for this, I'm going to do 8 loops. I typically don't ever do less than 6. 8 is generally about the normal I do for a gift package, and for tree toppers. Sometimes I do a little bit more when it comes to a tree topper, especially if I'm adding in multiple ribbons. And of course, as you get more loops and it gets thicker, it does get a little bit harder to hold between your fingers. So twisting it really helps because you don't have to hold it quite as precisely. The twisting will kind of keep it together, but you do also get better with practice. So if you don't succeed the first time, just simply unravel it, try again, and just keep doing it until you have something you like. So I've now got my 8 loops and my tail. So now I'm going to take my pipe cleaner, and I'm just going to, while I'm still pinching, and make sure you pinch super, super tight, I'm going to pull that around, and I'm just pulling as hard as I can. I'll just kind of turn it upside down. And I like to use the pipe cleaners because then I can just twist it around easily. Come back around if I feel like I need to secure it again, just a little bit more. And now I've got it tied off, and I can add other pipe cleaners to this to be able to actually tie it onto the tree, use the greenery of the tree to secure it, whatever. So from there, just cut the other ends and then fishtail. So just quickly, how I like to fishtail is I just pinch it in half, and it's just important that when you take your scissors, you start at the outside edge and you just cut diagonally up so that then you get your fishtail. And then the last thing to do is just to zhuzh up your bow and just get it fluffed up how you like it. And there we have the bow. And obviously, if I was putting this on a package or putting this on the tree, that would be the final fluffing that I would do just to make sure that I really like it. Now, I'm not actually gonna cut this one off just because I'm going to show you how to do a bow with 2 different ribbons, but basically that's what's created. So these are the 2 ribbons that I'm going to use for my next bow. And so very complementary colors, a little bit different textures. You know, a lot of times if I'm doing a 2 ribbon bow, I actually even like to get ribbons of different size, but this was just the best options I could find in the colors that I wanted, so I didn't have an option to get 2 different widths this time. But basically, the process is going to be very much the same. So I'm going to start off figuring out how much of a tail I want with my first ribbon, and go ahead and kind of hold the start of the first loop in between my 2 fingers. Then I'm going to create my first loop, pinch, twist, then create my second loop, pinch, and twist. And now this is where I'm going to add in the second ribbon. So once again, I'm going to figure out how long I want the tail to be. In this case, I want it to be about the same length as the other ribbon. Go ahead and get it pinched between my fingers. Create the first loop with this one, which I want to be about the same length. So create that, twist, and then come over on the other side. Make this one kind of upside down. And sometimes you do have to be careful with these ribbons where there's a subtle difference between the inside and outside, but it can be hard to see, so I did need to flip that just to make sure I had that the right way. Pinch and twist. And so this is an example of a bow that's a little bit harder to make because I've got two different ribbons, first of all, but also this ribbon right here is a little bit stiffer, so it is just a little bit harder to work with. So it just takes a little bit of perseverance. So now I've got my 2 loops with my second ribbon, so for 4 loops total, and I'm gonna once again make an 8-loop bow. So at this point, I'm gonna come back with my first ribbon, and both of them are still attached to the spools just because that's how I like to do it. So I'm just gonna kind of move that one back behind so I can pull this one out to the center. And from here, I'm going to create my next set of loops with the first ribbon. And twist. Next loop, making it upside down. And twist. Push this one over, bring this one back so I can start this one in the middle. Just kind of shove everything out of the way. Second set of loops with the second ribbon. All right, I have all of my loops. I will take my pipe cleaner, get everything pinched off really, really securely, flip it over. I can twist it, wrap it around. Now I will cut off my tails, cut my fish tails into them, fluff it, and show you the final product. All right, and there is the final product. So this is the first of 3 bows that I'm going to make to put on the tree topper of my 7.5-foot tree. You can apply the same principle if you want to create a bow with even more ribbons. So you could just add the 3rd ribbon in if you wanted after you do 2 loops of each. Just keep in mind that the more ribbons you add in, the more textures, etc., a little bit harder it gets to work with. But there is my tutorial on how to create a fabulous looking bow that can be either used for gift wrap or for your Christmas trees. If you found this video helpful, please give me a thumbs up, and please consider subscribing if you'd like to see more of my lifestyle videos. And until next time, bye.